Okay, here we are with Luke with I don't want to get your name wrong. Down East Land and Tree
You know it.
Care, uh, out of the Jonesport Beals area. It's hard to say your name. I want to say Eastbound and Down every time I see
Yeah,
the
oh, yeah.
name of
Kenny
your
Powers?
business. Yeah, but that name was already taken.
We bring that Kenny Powers energy to the company, you know?
Yeah, I apologize to anybody that's too classy to know about this TV show. Yeah. Cool. Happy to have you on the podcast and learn a little bit more about your story and your business. Let's dive, right in. Tell us, how you got started in the, tree care biz, um, there in your area.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited. Appreciate you reaching out to me. I guess it's kind of a long story when it's comes to the tree care. Uh, you know, in school, I guess I was never the type of person to be able to sit still. Uh, I
Yep.
had quite a lot of detentions racked up in my career and ended up moving away to Ohio. I was from Jonesport Beals, and that's where I finished my high school. That's where I met my wife today, was in Barnesville. And when I graduated high school, I had enough of school, honestly, and sitting around in classrooms and being told what to do and how to do it. And I said, I just want to make some money. And so I went to go find a job. Didn't matter what job it was. I just knew that I needed to have something on my resume to show that I was a reliable worker and that I could hold down a job. And so I wanted to find a job and just hold it for a year, no matter what it was. Uh, my buddy caught one of my buddies in my class. He was working for Asplund, which is a nationwide company, and they do storm duty and they do the line clearing for the power companies. So it's a subcontracting company that clears the line so that the line company can come and put up the lines. And so I honestly kind of just lucked out finding something that I ended up doing as a career. At the time, I didn't know I was going to, but it was a pretty intense job. I got hired on at $13 an hour, which was not a lot of money.
Oh,
But the
sure.
one of the best things about it is we worked Monday through Thursday, 4 10s. So we got to have Friday, Saturday, Sunday off every week. So we could work and then you'd kind of have a long weekend. I learned a lot on that job. Uh, Very intense work, considering that I was first started out what they call a spider lift. So it was a bucket that was we would haul around on a trailer and it had tracks and it had outriggers and we'd track it in the back of people's yards on the lines that we couldn't get on from the truck. And you put out the outriggers and you go up in the bucket and trim the trees. And they kind of start you out as a groundsman. You have to sit there and watch them for a month. You can't even touch a saw or do anything. You have to just watch for a month, which is a good idea because with chainsaws, it's very quick to make a bad decision and you seriously hurt yourself, kill yourself, or hurt somebody else. And that's what they
Mhm.
pushed in Aspen was safety first. Every morning we had a safety meeting. But so they'd start me out as a groundsman. I'd watch them do this, and then I went on the spider lift. And once they realized I could operate a bucket and get up in the bucket, they said, "Well, we think that you could be a climber." And so they pretty much gave me my spikes and my ropes, and they gave me this tiny little tree, and they said, "Let's see what you could do." And they kind of just walked off. They just kind of kept an eye on me, and I struggled to get up 5 feet in the tree, pretty much half a day. And it's pretty intense though, because obviously, I mean, I don't know about how you are, but I'm not exactly a fan of heights, and
How'd you
especially
overcome
when you
that?
got what was that?
How'd you overcome that? Or did you?
Uh, well, I think it's a good thing to be scared. You know, it keeps you safe, and so with climbing trees, you got spikes on the inside of your heels, and then you got a climber's belt, and you got your handsaw, you got your pruners, which are insulated pruners so that they're non-conductive around the lines in case there is kind of a cross when you could might put touch the power line with a limb or get your pruners in there. It's non-conductive, made out of fiberglass, so that it won't come into you and kill you. So that's what it was. It was a slow process of them start me smaller, smaller, smaller until I was able to climb the trees on my own. It really, it's not made for everybody. It takes a certain mentality to be able to get over that fear, and it is a fear. And so how you climb a tree is you have to spike in. You get two lanyards, which are adjustable ropes, and you have to flip your rope up around the trunk, couple spikes up, flip your rope up around the trunk, couple spikes up, and you want to lean back so your lanyard's taking that pressure in so that you won't kick out and drop. But it's all about getting to the first limb. So once you get around that first limb, that's your anti-slip. Because if you don't have a
Okay.
limb and you kick out, you're going to go down. And so once you
Yep.
get around your first limb, you're pretty much good. And so you just work your way up the tree. And once you get around your first limb, you kind of work yourself up and trim up around it. And then you have your rope that once you get to your top of your trim, you can put your climbing rope in, and you have a tie where you can adjust it. And you work your way down, and you can kind of like how rock climbers do it.
Yep.
But
Yep.
this was 2015. This is 11 years ago I did it.
Wow.
And
So you've been doing this for a minute.
yeah, it has. It's been a while.
So I'm hearing you got to be a little bit crazy to be a climber. It's not for
Yes.
everybody.
Yeah.
And you got some expert repelling skills. Have you ever used your repelling skills to like sneak into some, secret compound you're not supposed to be at?
Why do you think I got the job? That's the plan eventually, you know?
Let's go. You got some some James Bond skills. You're ready to
I will say,
uh
once I got good at it and I was able to climb nice and get my tie in, and then once had that freedom of being tied in, you had your rope so you could like rappel and go up and down freely. It was really fun. It was amazing, actually. And, I would trim a tree and I'd swing from one tree to the next and retie and just go down the line. But it's one of those things where you always had to be on your game. I mean, once a week, they would have a story about somebody across the nation that, they didn't do their tying right, and they fell this in the line, and, people died. And so
yeah,
one of the biggest things I learned from that job was I had a boss, and he was probably 5 foot nothing, and the heels of his boots were this thick. So he was the definition of a small man syndrome kind of guy.
sure.
And, I never really was good at authority personally, mostly because I'm a respect-based person. And the problem I have with authority is if you don't respect me and you expect me to respect you, it's just not going to happen. But he was somebody that I learned that I kind of had to respect because I didn't want to lose my job, but he was a dick. I didn't like him, but I had to respect him. And, I made a joke one time to him. Um, there's these little balls up in the tree and they had some fluff around them. And I was like, "Hey, Aaron, that kind of looks like your nuts." And all the guys on the crew, chuckled. And then he came up and said something really inappropriate about my girlfriend in my ear. Nobody else heard him. And I really bit my tongue on that one because had it not been on the job site or something else, it probably would have been different. But that's when you just kind of
Yeah,
have to, you'll learn that in life. You just have to turn the cheek and do what you got to do. I mean, I had a paycheck to make. I had a job. I didn't want to lose it. And,
sure.
and I went home and told my uncle a story. And he's like, "Hey, you just got to deal with that sometimes." And
Was
so,
that
it's
was
one
that a
thing, but
moment where the seeds of you starting your own thing were implanted, or when did you start thinking about
well, it wasn't. I
things?
was I was still holding down the job. So at that point, I actually got fired because they found out I was taking a trip to Africa. I was planning on quitting anyway, but he fired me before that happened. At that point, I had everything down pretty good. I mean, I was at the point where I was up in the tree, and we had to have a certain amount of trimmings or tree removals each time, and I'd go up and get all my stuff done, and I'd bring my Game Boy with me and sit up in the tree and play some Zelda and back down. So
Cool.
I wasn't exactly motivated to do any more because they only gave me like $1 raise once I became a tree trimmer. I was only making 14.25 an hour. It's like they never really gave you that. Uh, what am I trying to say? A reward or a motivator
Motivation.
to try to do better at your
Yeah.
job. It was just like it was kind of a dead end thing. Like they
Yep.
would always
Yep.
say, the dream was to be a lineman. because the lineman made the money. The aspen does the dirty work and clears all the trees, get paid like nothing. But once you get a lineman, you double your salary, you get benefits and all that stuff. So they would say, well, eventually you could be a lineman, eventually you could do this, but they just kind of hold you there.
Yep.
I'm glad I got out of it, but when
Yep.
I got out of it, I I just want to go make some money, some real money. I mean, I think I made like $22,000 a year. And that's not enough. It just wasn't enough for me. It's not enough to get ahead. It was barely enough to pay rent. And so that's what brought me back home is I knew if I came home, I could find a job on a lobster boat and make a lot more. And so that's what I did.
Yep. Nice. How long did you work on the boat? You go out just seasonally? You go out every season for
Um, so how it works around here is it's usually seasonal. So people will start, fishing probably around, May. People will start putting their traps in, maybe try to catch an early run in the spring. There's 2 types of fishermen, though. There's inside fishermen, there's outside fishermen. So inside fishermen, they fish like single traps with single buoys, or they'll have 1 buoy with 2 traps. And then there's people outside that fish trawls, which has a big balloon. It goes down to an anchor, and it's then a series of traps to another anchor that come up to another balloon. So they can haul that, and they get through a lot more traps quicker. I lucked
you have to
out.
have a bigger boat for those?
I worked on a 36-foot boat. So, I
Okay.
mean, people would say it's not that big of a boat, but when you get on it, it's a big boat. I mean, it's not a little skiff, you know what I mean? And, I happened to just come in at the right time. I mean, I had connections back here, I had buddies and, so I come back and I didn't have a dollar in my pocket. I didn't have a license, got into a little bit of a trouble, got a DUI, stuff like that. And, I just decided that lifestyle wasn't for me anymore. And I just want to get my life on track. I was 23. It's about time start getting serious about something. And I had this little blue
Yep.
Tomos moped. It was a 2-speed moped. And I worked for this construction company for, 15
Nice.
bucks an hour. And I'd ride around my moped, get my hours in until I found my job on the boat. And I lucked out with my captain. Just so happened he was looking for somebody. He told me to hop on in the fall. He started me at a percentage, which is how they get paid in the stern, is you make a percentage. And you don't get paid by the hour, you get paid percent on a catch. So I think he started me at like
Yeah.
20%, and then incrementally raised me until I got my full 17.5%, which is standard. It's about a third to the crew, a third to the boat, a third of the cab. So I did
Got
that
it.
for 8 years.
Yep. Whoa. That's a legit. And you're just kinda ready for a change, not being out on the boat so
Well,
much. You got a girlfriend, wife. What was going on here?
like I said, I met my wife in high school. She's, thank God, still with me today. And, in Maine, it's kind of slim pickings. So you kind of have to go out of state to recruit, you know?
Yep.
And, so while I was on the boat, I was I tore down a barn. I was building my house, but I knew that the boat's not longevity. I mean, it's hard on you. It's not once you're 40, I see those guys that are 40 on the boat and they're miserable, they're hurting, they look like they're 80. You know what I mean? And, so while I was working on the boat, I was still doing my tree work. I told people I was doing tree work, I just do a little bit. I think, my dad let me use his truck and his trailer for a little bit,
Mhm.
until I got my own truck and my own trailer. And I have to say, I've been lucky because I have got a lot of chances and a lot of opportunity through my family, where a lot of people don't have that opportunity. I'm blessed that I did have an opportunity where I got a little bit of a push and where I had, these things that I could use. I think my buddy even gave me a chainsaw to get started. He was using it to cut holes when he's ice fishing. I said, "Are you serious?" So yeah, just take it. So my first chainsaw, my buddy even gave to me. So, um,
Awesome.
but so I was slowly building what I was trying to do. I didn't really know what I wanted to do yet, but anybody that I would meet, I'd say, "Hey, you want something done? You want, you need these rose bushes cut. You need some handyman work. Do you want, I do tree work. Do you want this done, this, that." I was fierce. I wanted to make money. I wanted to start something. Didn't matter what it was. I just want to do something. And, on the boat, you're out there for 12 hours at a time. And so every time I was out on the boat, I was trying to, piece together what I could do to get off the boat. And over 8 years, I just slowly started, buying equipment, gaining clientele, buying more equipment, gaining clientele to the point where once I was ready to get off the boat, I was done. And I went right into what I was going to do, but I didn't get done until I knew I could make the money I needed to make, provide for my family, and still hit my goals. Because yeah, I'd make between 60 and 80,000 a year on the boat. And in my opinion, that's pretty close to the minimum you got to do to get ahead, meaning have a nice truck, have a, mortgage, and still be able to put some away. And I think that's the minimum. So
Yep.
it was just a transitional thing, and it worked out pretty well. And my captain was one of the best captains ever. He was just really, really cool about the way he treated me, which was a respect based thing. And, there were some times I didn't show up for work, which I don't do anymore, but, a little bit of hung down maybe sometimes, wasn't exactly feeling so hot. And I just didn't show up, and that's not cool. But he let it go, and didn't happen all the time. But some people wouldn't have been as relaxed as him. But he knew when I showed
Yeah.
up, I did a good job and stuff like that. And then as you get older, you realize that you just don't do that. It just you wake up and you go to work. That's that. You don't miss days.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Well, you dove right into the workforce. So when a lot of kids are off in university, acting a fool, you were going through your growing pains and maturing. But
Well,
work
don't
making
get me
ends meet.
wrong. I was acting a fool too.
Hey, I know. Yeah. But
Yeah,
making money.
yeah, trying to make some
Yeah.
money, just
While you're
kind of,
doing it.
and it was good because in life, and I tell kids this all the time: learn a trade. Get
Yep.
tools. That's the most practical thing you can
Yep.
do. If I could redo it when I was young, I would want to work under an excellent carpenter for 3 years. Get all my tools
Mm.
and just really learn how to do carpentry. Because that's one thing I learned about fishing, and it's one thing that, like, they preach that Jesus was a fisherman and a carpenter, and I believe that's because you can do 2 things right 2 different ways. Like, you can have a
What do
beautiful
you mean by
structure,
that?
and it's completely different from that structure, built completely different, but right. It's all up to the person who the perspective of what you want. Just like there's more than one way to catch a lobster, more than one way to fish it. It's not like either of them is right or wrong, but it's a beautiful thing. It's like almost limitless what you can do.
Yeah, there's definitely some opportunity for some creativity and self-expression in that, and doing the more skilled, labor you can do, obviously, that's a benefit. I like the, you know, collecting tools along the way,
Yeah,
because
and
you
it's
have your
fun,
own set of tools. Yep. And you get good at using those tools, and obviously it's more valuable. People, if, I know when I hire contractors, if they show up and they don't have tools, I'm like, "Hey, this guy's not
Yeah,
legit,"
exactly.
But if they got all their own tools, I'm like, "Okay, this
Yeah,
guy,"
yes.
Yeah.
And
Um,
it's like,
yeah.
when you're a kid, you would buy toys and stuff. And for
Yep.
me, Home Depot's like my toy store. I'm like, I don't really need a hammer drill, but that thing looks pretty badass.
Um, yeah, we usually go in on all these episodes just chatting a little bit about, this interesting new world we're entering into with AI. A lot of white collar jobs are, going by the wayside. And they're not gonna need one person will be able to do, the job of 10 people. But so far, the robots can't trim trees. It might be another 20 or 30 years before the robots are up in the trees. So,
You know,
uh,
first of all, ChatGPT is single-handedly saving my marriage because it's answering all the questions I don't really want to answer. So, the AI can take that job. But I think the whole AI thing is, in my opinion, getting blown out of proportion. Yeah, I can see where it's assembly lines and maybe even driving, but the blue collar stuff and the physical part like carpentry and plumbing and electricians and tree trimming. You're not the AI is not going to take that over. That's not going to happen. And the thing is, and I know for a fact there's more work out there than I can handle. Especially at this point, I'm expanding faster than I can keep up with it. And if you want to make money and you want to get a job, you can. And there's a demand for workforce out there that it's just not like it used to be. All the best carpenters I know are getting out of it. They're done, and there's nobody to replace them. And it's insane. And that's why the prices have skyrocketed and the quality of work has gone downhill.
Yep. Yeah, that's why housing prices are so expensive,
Yep.
and hopefully there's gonna be a shift, hopefully a lot of the soft Americans that are, traditionally pursuing white collar jobs, hopefully they toughen up a little bit. Hopefully they appreciate, the value of getting into, blue collar jobs, because we need more of them. And it's the only job that's going to, in a lot of ways survive this new, transition we're going into. So, any advice to young guys that, we're diving right in, like other than
Like
learning
I
a
said,
highly skilled trade and collecting equipment? Any other advice on mentality or anything that they might need to
I mean,
have when we
I
dive
could
in?
talk a lot about that. I think that I think the main thing that I see in people that are struggling is they want to have an easy life. And an easy life is not the life you want. You want to have struggle in your life so you can appreciate your life. You wouldn't know the beauty if it wasn't for the struggle. And the harder you work and the more disciplined you are, the more rewards you get. And it's so true. And you can go out there and you can find that out for yourself. But if you're going to sit home and look for a comfortable life and try to find happiness there, it's not going to happen. And that's why everyone has this depression. They have all these issues. You go bust your ass, you work hard, and you get a paycheck. There's honestly, it's hard to find a better feeling than that, having self-worth and doing the best you can and getting rewarded for it. I mean, that was one of the best things about the lobster boat is you go and bust your ass all day for 12 hours, come home with a couple thousand pounds of lobster and bring in a fat check. I mean, that cures any depression right there.
Yep. Yeah.
I would also say, I think that there's been a separation between the younger generation and the older generation. I think that a lot of, especially computers, video games, it sucks people in and they don't go talk to people anymore. And that's one thing that I have really cherished in my life and has helped me out a lot is having great mentors. And I've always loved older people. I've always liked talking to them. I like the way they act. It's just a respectful kind of thing. And I know that when you sit, if you have grandparents or you have older uncles, you sit down, you go to their house. It's a different style of conversation. It's a respect. You sit down, you have a drink with them. It's an etiquette that is just lost nowadays. And one thing about that is older people have been there, they've done that, and they can tell you about it, you know? And something that could take you years and years and years to figure out, they could tell you how to save that time in a 5-minute conversation if you can just get into their mentality, if you can pick their brain, or they might just, tell you something, and it might just click.
Yep. Yeah, that made me you remember something you just said a little earlier, there's obviously we can learn from wisdom or experience. Um, when you're dealing with chainsaws, you don't wanna learn from experience, in
Yeah.
terms of chopping your arm off. You'd rather
Yes.
learn from wisdom. And on your first job, you were saying you guys were aware of when people would have mishaps even across the country. Is that something that you still have a pulse on? And is that a way that you can, teach are you consciously, bringing those moments up so that you can learn from other people's mistakes and your crew doesn't have to make those same mistakes?
I have been getting a lot better at being a leader and being a boss. And that is one of the most difficult things about running your own business is running your crew and teaching your crew. And 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 it's a balance factor of when to be nice to them and when to be serious. And at the end of the
Sure.
day, you can't really be friends with your employees. I mean, you can be friendly, but it's not healthy to be friends because it crosses a boundary there. And when you come to work, it needs to be a professional thing. We need to focus on work. Because when you get friendly with them, that they'll take advantage of it without even them knowing. And
Yep.
So one thing I do is I do safety meetings, and I don't put people in situations where I know they're not comfortable. I mean,
Sure.
we also do lawn mowing, so we have a whole bunch of things we're into. We have 140 lawns. We do uh 50 residential plows. We got a few contracts. We do land clearing. I do, septics, construction of ways. I mean, we're into it all now. And
Nice.
so when it even comes down to operating a zero turn, you know what a zero turn is?
A zero turn.
So it's a
No.
lawnmower with those two like bars, if you ever seen it. So it's independent steering on each wheel, so it's a lot faster than just a standard
Yeah,
riding.
you can yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So you can make quicker cuts and it just makes it a lot faster. So we got 4 of those. And
Okay.
I can't just hire somebody and expect them to hop on that thing and know what they're doing. But at the same time, I don't have time to sit there and teach everybody. So I have to teach my guys to teach. And I got my 2
Interesting, yeah.
main guys. They've been with me for 2 years now. And they're at the point where they can run their own crews. They can run chainsaws. They know how to run the trucks and the dump trailers. And I go and I take down the trees and I leave them. And then when I come back, they're all cleaned up. Everything's good to go. And as far as the lawn mowing, I only had to mow a couple times last year and my crew took care of everything. So that's where I'm trying to be headed is I want a business that can run itself eventually.
Yep.
But the problem
So you w
is people don't want responsibility sometimes. They want to stay in
sure.
their lane. And if they did, I would reward them and I tell them that. But that's what I am, as I take all the responsibility. And that's what's called owning a business is you have to take your work home every day with you if you want to be good at
Yep,
it.
yep. Yeah, it's interesting. As a business owner myself, it's you imagine that everybody I imagine everybody's like me, right? And I project and I'm like, "Oh, everybody's gonna have my same mentality," and,
Yeah,
thankfully they don't, because you need all sorts of different types of people,
exactly.
obviously, to make the world run, but, yeah, it's good. I can see you have as you're growing your leadership, you're seeing that, your employees have a different mentality. They might need to be motivated differently than you. Uh, so with the four, zero, what they call zero turn
Zero turns, all
lawnmowers,
John Deere.
zero turns. So are you finding that it's easier to scale up that side of the business because it maybe takes less training than, the tree trimming, climbing stuff is a little bit more skilled and that's a little bit easier for you to scale as a business owner, or what's your
So I
mentality
guess
there?
it goes back to what we were just talking about is everybody's different. And that's one thing I've learned is you kind of have to find what people's niche is. You got to kind of find what people are good at because, for
Yep,
example, I mean, chainsaws, some people are timid around chainsaws. Like they'll do it if I ask them to do it, but you can tell they don't want to do it. And if they don't want to do it, I don't want them doing it. On the other hand,
yep,
somebody might be really excited to run the chainsaw. They might really want to be doing that. Same thing with like weed whackers and operators. Some people would rather just weed
yep,
whack. They'd rather just be the guy that goes
yeah,
around trimming and not have to operate. Other guys, me personally, I'd much rather sit on the mower. It's a lot easier. It's kind of fun sometimes as long
right,
as you're not doing it all the time. So
yep,
it's more about starting them at base level and see where they want to go.
yep,
And
yep,
when I hire people, I learned that some people are worth $13 an hour. It sounds
sure,
crazy, but when you hire somebody and they don't know how to do the weed whacker, they don't have a clue about anything, and you have to sit there and teach them, then
yep,
you're wasting money for a couple weeks just trying to get them even to do the simplest thing. And I think minimum wage is $15 an hour in Maine. But either way, I used to hire guys at 20,
I
and
mean,
I
some people
learned
are worth 0, and they should
yeah,
be doing internships
exactly. Yeah, some people aren't worth
until they're
anything.
providing value. I know it's kinda your first position, right? You were sound like it was a really good position for training, but you weren't making a ton.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yep,
I just happened
and
to luck out in the fact that I wasn't getting paid much then. I am now. It was more about
sure,
learning the trade that was most important, and I didn't realize I was gonna use it as much as I did, but there's a high demand for it anywhere you go. Tree work, you can make good money, but you got to know what you're doing. You got to do it the right way, and you got to do it safety first every time because it's not worth
Yep.
any kind of injury, any kind of damage for any kind of money. There are 3 jobs I've walked away from in my life.
Mm. Um, so you have a pretty good appetite for risk.
I love it to a point.
Yeah. You're crazy. Like my oldest brother ended up being a pilot for Southwest Airlines, but his he had a tree trimming company. He's 19 years older than me, a lot older than me, but and he was a daredevil. He would get up in this, top of the tree, and he'd have one of his other buddies that was working for him climbing below him, and he'd be like at the top of the tree doing these things just to fuck with his buddy, and was always had a couple angels, watching over him. Um, and yeah, but yeah, he
I,
has
I've
that
had
certain mentality.
I've had only one close call when it came to being seriously hurt on a tree job, and that was I was cutting this birch tree, and I didn't realize how much tension was on this limb. It was caught under another tree, and I was cutting it, and I didn't realize how much pressure there was, and it cut it, and the limb came out and took my legs out from under me, and my face landed this far from the running saw.
Oh my
It's just one of those
gosh.
things, but you have to wear this the protection is important, and that's what I tell everyone. Even if you don't know how to use a chainsaw, you gotta make sure you have chaps, safety glasses, gloves, and a hard hat. I mean, you got to use all those every time, and you don't skip it because that's your seatbelt in a car crash or whatever. It's your life jacket in a boat.
Yep.
You have to always have that
Yep.
just in case, and you don't skip those. You don't take the risk. You don't take a risk of not doing it. You always have.
Yep. Yep. Um, so on the zero turn, on a side note, have you seen this video of the, like,
You like the
old
zero turn,
man
don't
that's
you?
really running away from the cops on the lawnmower? Have you seen this video on YouTube?
Yeah.
If you haven't, someone's watching, look this up, and this guy's doing, like, a high-speed chase with these cops, but he's going through backyards on the lawnmower, and he just doesn't wanna pay the ticket because he doesn't, like, have registration. Classic.
Yeah.
Um, so you're
Have you seen the
doing
one where the guy's running away from the cops in the skyjack?
No, oh my gosh, that's awesome. I'll look that one up.
So
Okay, so you're doing grading, so you have some big pieces of equipment for all these things, and you got 4 lawnmowers. Are you guys doing in the wintertime? Are you guys doing, like, snow
yep, we do
clearance
snow
or any
plowing
kind?
right now, actually. Fortunately, one of my plow trucks just went down. I got 3 of them, but, we were supposed to get a foot on Monday, so you gotta
Yep,
always have backups and be prepared for things to break down. The snow plowing is kinda hard to make money because it's so rough on stuff. But it's one of those things
sure.
where I have to have it because my kind of company has to be well-rounded. If you're gonna offer this, you gotta have that too. Because that's one
Yep,
thing that I have been good at is when I see a demand for things, I have an eye for a demand and where the money is, and if people are asking me about it, I can't help but not to invest into it. I have to stay in my lane as far as landscaping, like, I don't do any carpentry. People call me about carpentry, I refer to other people. But
sure.
snow plowing kinda goes hand in hand with lawn mowing because it's seasonal work, and so
Yep,
when you're not doing lawn mowing, you gotta have snow plowing. Just the way it goes, just to have some income in the winter. Because usually everybody makes all their money and then sits on it to get through the winter, and then come spring, you don't have any money.
exactly.
So that kinda
Yeah,
just
it's very
helps get through.
very complimentary. We have one client that does Christmas tree light installation, landscaper, tree trimmer during the winter. It's interesting.
I had a couple
Another
calls
guy
this year,
Yeah, I think you have what it takes, Luke. Let's get
and that's
creative
the
and
thing
do
is,
some.
it's like I gotta stay in my lane a little bit. And then it's like,
Yeah,
you can't really like, you're gonna charge I gotta charge somebody like $300 to put up lights, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I don't really wanna I don't know. It's just one of those things
yeah.
where, I don't know. It's kinda goofy.
Is it hard to, remember or even know your worth in terms of charging a little bit extra to, you know, price in that equipment failure for replacing equipment and budget that out? Is that something you'd have to have learned over time? Do the clients get that when you're, charge a little bit more?
So, that's probably been my biggest learning curve is I'm good at what I do. I do good work. I do high quality work. I treat my clients well, but it's one of those things where you have to have your morals in business, but you also have to have your business side too. And you can't be too greedy, but also you have to realize what's going out because it's easy to get a check and be like, "Oh, look, I just made this check." But it took me 2 years to realize how much is actually going out and to figure out how to bid things. And I don't feel, there's this little old lady that doesn't have a lot of money. I am going to take it easy on her. I will. But also, is if there's this client that's got a mega million mansion and wants to sit there and watch me work the whole friggin' time, you're getting a little bit of
Yeah,
an extra addition added on. You're getting a watcher fee. I hate to say it, but I cannot stand it when people are sitting there watching me like, go inside, go inside.
that's fun. Yeah,
No, not really, but
yeah.
kind.
Hey, that's economics, I studied economics in university, and, yeah, you wanna give people discounts that need discounts,
Yes,
Another guy I was doing podcasts with, he, for all the service people and, people that have, uh, you know, law enforcement and, uh, anybody that needs some help, he'll give them some help, and then, the people that, you know, can afford to pay the full price, they pay the full price,
exactly.
and,
You gotta have an eye in. And at the end of the day, what I do is a service, and I like helping out people. I mean, that's probably my favorite thing about what I do is all the walks of life I get to do business with, and we get
yep,
to do a job together, and we're both happy when I walk away. It's a great feeling.
yeah, yeah,
And I've done jobs before
uh,
where I haven't even charged people, like, just because I know they don't have any money, they're up against the wall. I just leave without I mean, it's rare, but I mean, you can just tell they don't have a
sure,
choice. They don't have any money. It's like,
yeah,
"Okay, this took us a couple hours." And the guys are
yeah,
like, "Oh, you don't have to pay us." I'm like, "Don't worry about it." Like, it all comes
yeah,
out in the wash. Like I
I'm
said,
sure that guy
I got help
somehow
too. We all need help sometimes.
yeah, and that all comes back around, I'm sure,
It does.
somehow.
It's a
The universe
mentality
is
thing.
yeah. Um, so in terms of, sounds like you're growing your business. What's some of the, biggest challenges you faced so far, growing your business, and what's kind of the next season, thing you're focusing on right now?
In business, there's a lot of lessons, and lessons that you have to learn from experience. And what really has changed my business in the last year and a half is me going from having a landscaping business to having a construction business too. In other words, doing groundwork. And the way I got in the groundwork business is because my lawn mowing business, we get 140 clients, which is quite a lot of land territory and a lot of clients I talk with. So when I meet with these clients, very often they're like, "Oh, you do trees too? Well, will you come check out this tree?" Or then they'll be like, "Well, do you do, driveways or stuff like that?" And like I mentioned earlier, it was hard for me to hear that and not have
Yep,
the equipment or the way to do it. So what I would do is
yep,
I would refer a construction company and I would refer, and he would let me dump my brush at his pit. And so it was working out really good for a while. He was a close friend of mine. He was a mentor of mine. And
yep,
I referred him to this driveway job. And he was so busy, he just couldn't get to the job. And the client I was working for, he came up to me and he said, "Luke, I want you to build my driveway." I said, "What?" And he
okay,
said, "I want you to do it." And I said, "Well, I guess I could." And so I called back
sure,
the guy I referred and I said, "Hey, this guy, he really wants it done. Do you mind? I know I referred it to you, but do you mind if I do the driveway?" He said, "Luke, if you want to build that driveway, you damn well should." And
yep,
so it was winter time and he had a driveway going to his property, but it was going to be a U. So it was going to be like a U driveway. So we had two accesses and two X's. And so I just plugging in another driveway, pretty simple job. And, the construction company was supposed to bring me dirt on that Monday. And the day before, he'd give me the runaround, like, I'll do the best I can. I'll see what I can do. I was like, I need to know if you're gonna get me this material here because I have this lined up. And long story short, he called me and blew up on me and said, "Who do you think you are? Yeah, I haven't had it. I did it all myself. I don't answer to nobody, this, that, and the other." And so I had to then find other connections, which I lucked out. There's another guy in town. I was able to get a hold of him and he brought me the dirt I needed to do. It was in wintertime, so I needed to get it done before the rain came and it turned into all a big mess. And I hired a buddy who had
Sure.
an excavator. We worked on it together and we got it done. I made great profit. I was looking at my profit margin at the end of the job, and my father called me and I said, he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm sitting on my desk feeling a little guilty right now." He said, "Why do you feel guilty?" And I said, "Oh, I made this much money in this amount of time." He said, Was the guy happy?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "You have nothing to worry about then." And so
Yeah.
that completely opened the door to me. I said, "Well, that's some good money out there." And so then I
Yeah.
started renting equipment of excavator and doing jobs like this and making more money. But this guy that was I was working with, he owed me some money. And he
Okay.
said, "I don't like the way you do business. So now you
Yeah.
don't like the way I do business," and never paid me the money owed.
Oh
And
my
he
gosh.
was a mentor of mine. So he
Sure.
chose to do that decision where money runs his life and he chose
Yep.
money over morals. And so that was a lesson for me to learn, which is, first of all, don't get caught up in greed. And second of all, watch out because people will burn you. That was a cheap lesson because he could have screwed me for a lot more. So establish good connections and keep good connections. And I have.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, sadly, there's a lot of guys, that are in the trades and everywhere, but, that are a little salty. They're not energetically open to, good things and have that abundant mindset. I mean, I'm lucky, I get to have these conversations and the type of person that, decides they want to sit down and have a podcast and share with the world and, is the type of person that has open hands, so they're open to give and receive,
Exactly.
and, I found good things come that way. And some people are like, I'm not getting on a podcast. Someone's going to steal my secrets. And they have this kind of, scarcity mindset. And, that never works out. Right.
I think
Uh,
it's cool what you do, man. And so far, I mean, you've done a really good job at like pinpointing some things I already wanted to talk about. So you could tell you've got some experience and a good mentality.
yeah. Trying to, just listen. And always learn, some new things from these. Um, Definitely. Yeah. Appreciate these conversations.
And
So circling back, how do you balance the, "Hey, I'm gonna do have one service, and I'm gonna scale this out to a bigger region," versus, "Hey, I have so many existing clients and, they're asking for X, Y, and Z, and I'm gonna just, increase my, the" what do they call that? Maybe the average value per customer, right, by offering more services?
so how I do that is when it comes to lawn mowing and snow plowing, I don't go out of my small area, which is Jonesport, Beals, Addison, which would which would be I think the furthest one is probably 20 minutes away. Because at that point, it cuts my profit margin on the smaller profit margin jobs. And really, I don't make much money on the lawn mowing. It's like I said, the opportunity that comes from having the clients that make me the money because I can get the bigger jobs. The lawn mowing pays for my guys and it helps sustain the business side of lawn mowing. As long as they don't screw up my equipment too much, which they do,
Sure.
which happens,
Yep.
but it shouldn't.
Yeah.
So as far
Yeah.
as the tree work, I'll travel as long as the job's right. Doesn't matter to me. And I burn firewood too. So it's one of those things where it's a twofer for me because I can not only take down the tree, get paid for it, but I also can use it fuel for my house. And so groundwork, same deal. If you have a job and it's worth it for me to go do it, I mean, I'd travel even to another state if I needed to.
Hmm. And groundwork is just the lawn care stuff, or does that include
A
the
groundwork
grading
would
and
be
all that
like
kind of stuff?
construction. So, like driveways, house pads, septic systems, retaining walls, riprap, culverts, machinery.
And
Excavating.
you're if you have to dig a septic, you're renting that piece of machinery for
Just
the
bought a
day,
brand
or
new Cat 305. Yep. mini excavator, and I got a Kubota tractor with a backhoe. I got a couple dump trailers. So if I need bigger equipment, that's when I got a buddy that helped me do that first driveway job. He's got a really big excavator. We just did a big riprap job out in Masons Bay. And so if I need bigger stuff, I'll sub him out, and
Yep.
he works great with me. He's got a lot of experience. He used to work in New York City. You know, he helped clean up the Twin Towers when it went down. So there's nothing he can't handle. So that's one of those things. Is
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things about doing business is just networking and establishing connections. I'd say once every 2 weeks, I do what I call my rounds, which is I go have coffee. I go visit people. I go visit some people I like. I go mingle with the locals. I'll go to businesses and just kind of meander around and say hi to people. And it's crazy how much information and leads you can get just from doing that and just showing your face, because it keeps people like you in mind with people, and it's part of the fun too.
Yeah. You have a charismatic personality, and I'm sure, I mean, you gotta like people, you can't fake it to be able to, do
Exactly.
that kind of marketing and,
Yep.
actually care about your clients, care about new people, build those relationships, and so, yeah, yeah, I could see you out there hustling, Luke, and doing really well at that. Yeah, I can imagine it here. Uh, Very cool. You got that, new cat parked next to the F-150 in the driveway, or where do you keep all this, equipment?
First of all, I'm all GM, all Chevy and GMC.
The cat. Sorry.
It's actually on a job right now. I usually just ship it from one job to the next. I justified buying it. I think I just hit 100 hours on it because, like I said, I used to rent the equipment, and then once I got so many jobs lined up, I was like, I'm not going to keep paying off their equipment for them. I mean, it was $105,000 excavator, so it's not a cheap investment. I bought a dump trailer that I haul it around with and use as kind of like a dump truck, because I'm not quite at the point where I want to scale up to the size to have dump trucks and do that stuff. It just, what I'm doing right now is working well, having it kind of a small deal because it's less
Yep, yep.
overhead, it's less pressure. I got a good profit margin right now, and I just want to keep it there for a while. I mean, of course, if an opportunity presents itself, I'm willing to change, but for right now, that's kind of where I want to be.
Yeah, you don't wanna have to, go like this with your profits so much,
Yeah, it's kind of like this is kind of how it's going, just gradually.
um,
Yeah,
yeah.
but
Are you able to finance some of that equipment, or
yeah, that's what's
how do
great
you do
about
that?
Cat right now. They're running 0% finance, and Kubota as well. Yeah, that's where I got my tractor. So, that's a hundred and
And
eighty
you
five
have to have,
thousand dollar investment for the two pieces of machine and the dump trailer. So it's $200,000 investment for that
you have
equipment.
to show, like, 2 years' worth of business receipts or something to, like, justify that, or
So
was it just
pretty
credit
much the
score or
way
what?
I scaled it is my profit margin was 2 years of payments on the for all my equipment. So I have my payments covered for 2 years was justifying me buying it. And,
Got it.
since then, I've already picked up more jobs, so it's making me feel a bit more comfortable.
Yep, yep.
But
Makes
and
sense.
that's also it, is in life and in business, you have to bite the bullet to take a risk. I could still just be doing tree work and lawn mowing, but, like, and you kinda get a knot in your stomach about doing it, but you got to, and
Yep,
then once you do, it's almost putting pressure on yourself just to go to work, though. That's what it is. You just go to work
yep,
and think you work.
yep, yep. So that was a big moment getting that piece of, machinery. Anything else on the horizon here? What's the new season and biz look like for you? What are you focusing on, at this point based on, some of the things you've learned?
So the lawn mowing has always been a really pain in my ass because of the guys, and I love my guys, don't get me wrong, but when it's not your equipment, not your trucks, people tend not to really take care of it, and we had some fender benders, I've went through a lot of pairs of blades, and I tell the guys this all the time. Your quality of work is the advertisement. If you go do someone's lawn, you're there for maybe a half an hour. They have to look at that lawn for a
Yep,
week, not to mention all the people
yep,
that ride by. It's an advertisement what you're doing.
Sure.
So you got to take pride. We got to focus on quality. And then it's also touchy because you have to also be quick about it, you know? So it's like, well, I figured out what I'm going to do this year is I'm going to put, first of all, Apple trackers in all my vehicles. So I know whether they're wasting time. And when the way I do it is I give them their lawn sheet. I give them these amount of lawns. So what we're going to do this year is first, we're all going to go out and they're going to watch me by myself mow like 3 lawns. And so they know what the quality of work I expect is. There's no excuse for them not knowing because I just showed them every step of the way. And then they're going to do a clock in time and a clock out time on each lawn. And they're expected to hit this profit margin each day.
Yep, yep. I like that. So demonstrating, setting clear expectations. Um, how do you manage these guys? What type of, are you using like a Jobber? What type of CRM are you using? How do you do payroll, invoicing, all this kind of stuff?
Mm.
Track hours.
First of all, I think the most important thing about a business is a good tax guy. My tax guy is 82 years old. He does it on a typewriter. I found him when he was lobster fishing, and he said, "What do you want to pay?" I said, "I love you." And then he's 82 though, so I got to figure out how to get him some stem cells, keep him around a little bit longer. And then the
Yeah.
second one is my cousin. She does like financing and does accounting. So she does all like what I need to pay for taxes, this, that, and the other for insurances. Just if I have a question where I'm like, oh, do I got to pay this, that, and the other? She takes care of it. So she gives me a great deal. I think I pay her a couple grand a year, and she just takes care of all that headache. And then as far as billing and
Is that a
stuff,
once a year thing? Is that a once a year thing, or she comes in a couple times a year to do bookkeeping?
she whenever I call her, she just keeps on it.
Okay.
She just watches my bank account, tells me when I got to pay my insurances, my taxes, because I pay quarterly taxes. Get pay guys on payroll. As far as billing, though, I've been doing it myself, and that has been a struggle for me, especially on some of the smaller jobs, like the between $30 and $100, just smaller stuff. I tend to forget about it, and then people, text me and be like, "Where's the bill?" And I'll be like, "Oh, sorry," and then I'll have to bill it. But when I'm good at doing the work, it's just if I had a better setup, and I think my wife is going to start maybe doing my lawns and snow plowing, but it's hard for me to do that because when I do these bigger jobs, I have to first of all pitch the bid, and then I have to explain the details and the amount of material, and so it's a very specific thing that can't just be put down. So it's a learning curve for sure on that, and I expect to get better.
And how do you use, like, QuickBooks? How do you do an invoice?
Yeah, QuickBooks. Actually, that's what we're going to be going to right now. We just had that discussion today. Actually, I've been just using a generic one on my phone that I have to retype the clients each time, which is a big waste of time because apparently in QuickBooks you can just have your client with the information, just clip on them, change the amount. Takes half as much time.
Yep, yep. And then it's in the cloud, and the wife can look at it, and, team members can have access. Yeah, gotcha, gotcha. Um, and then keeping track of hours for your guys, is that an issue, or
Nope, that's pretty simple,
no?
and it's what my uncle used to do. It's just a simple timesheet, just a paper timesheet,
Yep,
Monday through Friday when you
yep,
started. And the type of guy I
yep,
am is I say, all right, guys, do you want to take a half an hour for lunch or not? And I was
sure.
like, yeah, I don't mind if you take 15 minutes, grab a bite to eat,
Yeah,
get something to drink, or you take
yep,
a few breaks here throughout the day. Because me personally, I never really like taking a half an hour lunch. I'd rather just get through the day and
yep,
not have to work through 4:30. I mean, it takes me 5 minutes to get a
sure,
couple bites of sandwich, and they're in the truck anyway, going from one lawn to the next. Anyway, so
exactly.
we just do clock in and clock out type thing.
Yep.
But that's
So,
one thing
don't
I
like
have.
doing taxes. You need a good tax guy, I'm hearing. Who likes doing taxes? I mean, that's we wanna do as business owners, right? More of the things we like doing, less of the things we don't like doing. So,
Exactly.
what are those other things you don't like doing, and what are the things you do like doing the most?
So currency is called current, so it circulates. That's what it is. So you get money, and there's nothing I love more than to pay somebody to do something I don't want to do. Number one thing is mechanics. I'm constantly having
Okay.
breakdowns, this, that, and the other. And to have a good mechanic is key. And you got to have your small engine mechanic, you got to have your, truck mechanic, you got to have your equipment mechanic. And over the course of my career, I've found excellent ones for that. So I just send
And some of
my
them gotta
stuff
be
there.
mobile.
Huh?
Someone gotta be mobile, come to you
Nope. I,
sometimes?
I ship it to them and then they take care of it. But the thing is, when I need it, they get me in, they get it done, and they charge me fair. And it's what I expect and it's what I want. And it's slick and easy, not much talk to it, just bam wham, and it's done. And it's a beautiful thing. I mean, you get a problem, you're like, ah, damn, you get it done. I mean, you get it in the shop, they get it fixed right away, and you're back at it. It's a great feeling. And it happens all the time. I mean, you're gonna have breakdowns. You're gonna have stuff go wrong. And so there would be that, and then the paperwork that I don't like either. But
Sure, sure.
I mean, I just honestly, my favorite thing to do right now would either be running a chainsaw, felling trees. I love to fell
Mhm.
trees, or sitting in that excavator.
Mm,
And that's what I
yeah,
tell my older
love it.
guys. I got 2 older guys, one late 30s, one early 40s. I say, "Guys, that's where I want you guys to be in the next few years. I want you to be running equipment." And we got younger guys coming in to do the stuff that the physical part needs to go to the younger generation. Just like me getting off the boat, I knew it's not longevity. I mean, as you get older, you're gonna get sore, you're gonna get wore out. So it's time to train the next guys to take over your spot, but that's their responsibility to train them so they don't have to do it. Just like I train them so I don't have
Yep,
to do it.
yep, gotcha. Um, what's more peaceful, being up at the top of the tree on your Game Boy or on the boat on the Game Boy? Yeah.
Ugh.
And
Um,
they're both kinda meditative,
that's why I
they're
have
both
my own
meditative.
business is so I don't have to work
Yeah,
for anybody. I'd say they're both equally as
yeah,
miserable. I mean, I'd say the tree is probably better because it's an art form. The boat was just so monotonous. I mean, it's the same thing over, and it's just repetition, repetition. That's what killed me. I mean, I would have my AirPods in, and podcast saved my life. Joe Rogan, Theo Vaughn, listen to them every single
yep,
podcast. That's what actually got me into podcasts, and I'd like to maybe start one day. I don't really know how. I don't really. It just sometimes like this is fun for me because you can kind of take care of the control, and I don't have to edit it. If I could just
yep,
let somebody record my thoughts and then post it for me, that'd be awesome. Cause then I wouldn't have to like watch myself and do the editing and stuff.
yeah. Hey, I think you have the charisma for a podcast for sure.
Thanks.
So, yeah, if you ever want advice on that, I can give you kind of our playbook and some of the little things we've learned. Luckily, the tools, are getting, easier now to do those. Yeah, it's not as hard to edit as it used to be.
Yeah. So the thing about the boat though is like I said, it 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 really did kill me towards the end of it. Like the monotony of it being out there. I mean, I hated it. And waking up at 3, 4 in the morning, getting icy spray in the face.
Yeah,
I mean, but that's what I'm saying about you gotta work hard and you gotta push through those things to get to the other side. And now that I own my own business, dude, I can take whatever days I
yep,
want off. I work a lot, but I can take whatever days I want off. I can pick what I want to do. I'm
yep,
be a leader. I got my own crew. It's everything I ever wanted, but I wouldn't have got there without going through those 8 years of not fun. And that's it's just building it up to the point where you can take control of your life. And I would encourage anybody to start their own business, no matter what it is.
yep, yep. Pretty cool. Well, so cool to learn, all the ins and outs of your business, Luke. And anything you want to leave, people with. I think of, what are some of the things that you do that you're educating maybe some of your clients with, maybe some life lessons, someone looking to get into uh, into the trades.
Well, I would say whatever you do, you gotta have a passion for it. You gotta love
Mm,
what you do before you even do it, in my opinion, or else what's the point of doing it? Um, I think that work work isn't fun, but it's part of life. Like I said, you wouldn't want to sit home all day and try to find happiness from that. You've got to go out and you've got to do things in the world and you've got to contribute. And this is one thing I think about all the time. I mean, everything's been set for us by future generations. What this laptop. this desk, this phone, this cup. It's all been engineered and made for us. And we're so lucky that we're able to have all these things and all this opportunity. And I do believe in the American dream. I mean, like I said, I came into town on a moped without a license, with not a dollar in my pocket. And I worked my way up, built my own house, built my own business. So if you have that mentality and you want it, you can do it. And nothing pisses me off more when people want to trash the country and say poor me and everything sucks and this that and the other. It's like whatever you want to focus on is what you're going to get. So if you have a positive mentality and you want it, you can get it, no matter what it is. Just dream big and work hard. You'll find it.
Yep. Let's go. I like
I
it.
got to say, I'm proud of you, man,
Uh,
and I appreciate you
hey,
looking up
I'm
with
proud
me.
of you.
And honestly, this has been awesome.
Yeah, you're a good human, good people. Your clients are lucky to, have you in their life. I'm sure, you put a smile on their face when you come around to the property. Being able to expand the range of what you guys do, I'm sure is a huge value for them. They'd probably rather have you do more things than, even though that probably wasn't easy, like learning and expanding and getting the equipment to, help those guys out. But I can tell you have a servant, heart. And yeah, well, we can talk about the podcast too. I can be like, hey, I knew Luke before he was the next Theo Vaughn.
Hey, maybe I could have you on.
Hey, I'm ready. I'm ready. Very cool. Well, Luke, how can people find you and connect with you?
I'd say probably the easiest way to do that right now is Downeast Land and Tree on Facebook.
Yep,
I haven't really got into many other platforms. I am potentially, doing a podcast in the future. I haven't exactly
yep.
figured that out right now. Um,
You're no OnlyFans right now. So yeah,
no, no, I'm not a
yeah.
lonely fan on OnlyFans.
Okay, very cool. Uh, awesome. Stay warm out there. Yeah. What's the weather like out there today?
Oh, it's cold today. We got a good freeze coming in. I think it's going to be in low 20s tomorrow. And then, like I said, we got a foot coming on Monday. So I'm pretty excited about that.
I
So
won't
where are you
tell you,
located in
Los Angeles.
LA?
I'm in the mean streets of Malibu, California.
Oh, cool.
Sunny
So is it
62
as bad as
degrees,
they
right?
say it is out there?
People are terrible, but the weather's great, so can't complain. Yeah.
That's good.
No, yeah. No, I mean it's pros and cons. But yeah, it's beautiful here right now. Yeah, we have good like hiking and I grew up surfing and my brother and I we started a surf shop out here. Um, so yeah, very very California.
Nice.
And yeah, we actually had a paddleboard. We had the first paddleboard e-commerce shop here in California. So
Nice. So you're just raking it
yeah,
in, aren't you?
you know, doing okay. Yeah, I enjoyed
Yeah.
doing the marketing thing for you guys, helping out the local service guys because you guys make the country go round and helping you guys, like I said before, doing some of the back end stuff that isn't fun to do and some of that technical stuff to help guys like you grow and just make quality of life easier, automate a lot of systems, make things easier. So
Well, I think that's
yeah,
also kind of like what you did. I mean, you saw a avoid the market and you stepped in and made an investment, took a risk on what you thought could be profitable. So that's just as
yep,
important as anything else.
yep.
I mean, providing somebody with a service, that's a service.
Yeah, and it's the future too. Like, the local home service guys is one of the sectors that's like a sure thing, moving forward in this AI, you know, next chapter of humanity. And so, yeah, for me, it's pretty cool to be able to come alongside, guys like you and partner with and we've developed some super cool relationships with these guys and working with them, on the day to day. And it's like, kind of like a family, to be honest.
Cool.
One of
I
our
will
guys
say,
was like,
go ahead.
yeah. I said one of our guys, in the last podcast, he said, biggest moments in my life was, getting like married, having kids, the three biggest moments, and working with Hello Magic, And I was like, whoa.
What's
But
Hello
for him,
Magic?
it was a game. Yeah, it was a game changer for him. We're answering his phones,
Oh, cool.
getting him to show up and search. So he's making more money and then quality
Nice.
of life, like he can like step back, have a bird's eye perspective, grow the business because he's not like in there as much. He's able to, have us handle some of that, day to day. And so, yeah, it's pretty cool to.
I will say, I did have a son here. He's only 8 months old, and that definitely is a huge motivator. I mean, for my mentality completely changed. I mean, I think that pushed me into buying equipment and just looking at building a new future. Because if we wanna have more kids, we could have a bigger house, this, that, and other, but, um, the way I see my future going and the way I would suggest anybody to invest is buy land and develop it. Buy land and develop it. No matter where it is. I mean,
Mm,
that's the only thing that's held its value, and they're not making any more of it. And you wanna talk about housing crisis, I mean, if we wanna get into it, BlackRock is buying
yep,
up residential houses everywhere, not even doing anything with
yep,
them. And so if you can
yep,
develop it or have rentals, that's where the money's at, I think. And so that's what I'm slowly
yep,
working towards is building up enough capital to where I can invest into something. I'd like to make tiny homes, affordable tiny homes that just, a 1 bedroom or 2 bedroom, small little house, for 50 grand or
yep,
something that people can afford.
yep. Uh, I like that. Not to digress too much, but I worked for a manufactured home builder out here in California for a couple years. So these are, factory built homes. So these are mobile homes, tiny homes. Uh, and even the like, manufactured homes, there's still a good amount of permitting, needed to go through. Uh, and one of my dreams as well is to create a tiny home village. And I think the best way to do that is to buy an RV park. Um, and with the RV park, you get the tiny homes that come in that are technically like RVs, basically, and they're registered through through DMV. Uh, and so there's no permitting necessary, and you could even have, like, 2 tiny homes come in then in between, you can pull in a a tiny home deck that's built in the factory too, and then
Huh.
attach them together,
Is this
and you
kinda
could
like
even put a 3rd
Boxable?
one. Well, the problem with boxable is they're not permitted for, all the different cities.
I
So,
getcha.
um, yeah, so it's like a cool idea, but again, they're not permitted. The tiny homes, through the DMV or a bigger, manufactured home that goes into a mobile home park, these are permitted through HUD, Department of, the federal department. So
Yep.
all the, permits are federal. So you don't have to, you can bypass all the local permitting. So you still have to get, whatever, your grading permits and make sure drainage is good, your septic permits and maybe, electrical hookup and, you know, um, gas hookup if you have a gas hookup. So you got to get those kind of, you know, things done still locally. But then other than that, you just pull it in and you're good. You don't have to do, any kind of structural permits. So
And just
it's
as easy as you can
to me
pull it
that's
in,
the
you can
biggest.
pull it out too.
Yeah, that's the biggest hack. And if you wanna, a 5-bedroom house, just like pull, 3 of these in and create a U compound with a deck in the middle, and you can create a little, like, awning, kinda common space area, in between, um, and, you know, get it set up in, like, maybe 3 weeks, a month, maybe at the most. Um, so that's, like, the biggest hack if you wanna create your,
Yeah, that's
off-grid
nice.
community, and people want connection, right? People wanna live, they close to other cool people, and you can have a cool clubhouse that has
Although
whatever, and
I have found out tall fences make good neighbors.
that is very true. Yeah, so you gotta find the same type of weird people that you actually like, so it has to
Yeah,
be, like,
exactly.
application only,
I'm kind of
people
the
that you
type of
want.
guy that wants to have a house with no neighbors, and I like people, but I like people when I
Yeah,
wanna hang out with people.
exactly, exactly. Well, you're cool. I'm always thinking, I'm like, "Okay, when the robots take over and I have my compound somewhere, who am I inviting?" And Luke, you're handy, you're for sure, and you're cool, you
Cool.
get the invite, Yeah.
Well, hey, you're cool too, Matt, and if you ever wanna come to Maine and eat some lobster and hang out, you're more than welcome.
Dude,
Yep.
dude, I love that. Yeah,
You bring your paddle
try
board and
to
I'll show you some sweet spots.
dude, all those inlets right there, like, seem insane. Yeah,
If you're gonna come, you
you
gotta
can
come in
come out
August. It's the best time.
August, okay. Yeah, if I get blown out to sea, you'll come out in the crab boat and save me.
I got you. I got a
Okay,
whaler. So,
okay, okay.
yeah.
Cool. Good stuff, Luke.
Yep. It was an honor.
We'll be talking. Yeah, it was great having you on.
Thanks, man.
See ya.